truck was driving along a deserted highway, like a huge ship, illuminating the road with its headlight. Pleasant music was playing in the cabin. The driver was in high spirits and humming the melody to himself. The long, tiring, but profitable trip was coming to an end. Jason was on his way home. He really liked his job as a long-distance truck driver. New cities, roads, people, impressions. The only drawback was the impossibility of long-term relationships with girls. Few wanted to link their lives with a man who was always away from home. This, of course, saddened the guy a little because he was already 27 years old, and of course, he wanted to start a family and have children. Well, not a big deal, Jason thought. I'll work for another 5 years, save up some money, and then open my own auto repair shop. And then a family will appear. Everything has its time. In the morning, Jason stopped to refuel and have a snack. He was just a short drive home, but he needed to rest. He went into a small cafe and sat down at a table. A waitress approached him to take his order, and he looked at her and involuntarily admired her. She looked like a princess from an Eastern fairy tale. Coal black eyes, eyebrows raised, delicate facial features, and thick black hair braided in braids. Jason introduced himself to the girl, and her name was Magda. He made her several compliments, left generous tips, and his phone number, and decided for himself that he would do everything to win her over. Magda, however, was not impressed by Jason at all. A regular guy in a dusty t-shirt and shorts, and a long-distance truck driver to boot? Not a particularly promising prospect. In her dreams, the girl saw an entirely different man. A handsome prince dressed in the latest fashion, driving a black Jeep, and she was there with him, like she stepped off the pages of fashion magazines. He opened the door for her, and they got to have lunch at an expensive restaurant. This beggarly existence had already bored her to death. This cafe, her life from paycheck to paycheck with her mother, life seemed to pass her by, and she wouldn't see anything. Therefore, Magda reacted very coolly to Jason's flirting, but she still took the phone, just in case. However, Jason turned out to be stubborn and persistent. He courted her for a long time, and beautifully gave her flowers, read poetry, promised that he would save up money and open a business. He was devoutly in love with Magda, and longed to hear the cherished words, "Yes, I'll marry you. I love you." And Magda had been thinking for a long time, hesitating, weighing everything, and finally agreed. But she had a wild argument with her mother. "Why do you need him? I know these long-distance truck drivers. They have a family and a child in every state. But what kind of nomadic life is that? Wake up, you're such a beauty. You will definitely find a better match." However, Magda only got angry with her mother. "Mom, do you know that I'm already 25 years old? By the way, and millionaires are not queuing up for me. I'll just waste my life alone. Jason is kind, decent, he loves me." The girl tried to prove her point. "He promised to open a business in a couple of years, and I believe him. He's not a drunkard, he's not lazy. This is my choice, Mom. Accept it and respect my decision." Elena eventually agreed. Of course, she didn't really believe in these stories about the business. She had lived in this world for many years and doubted Jason's promises. And Jason was over the moon. A grin to his ears didn't come off his face for a minute. The cafe was booked, the wedding date was set, and all that was left was to buy the rings and the bride's dress. Jason was on the last trip before the wedding and asked Magda to look for rings while he was away. The bride's mood was great from the morning. She carefully dressed up, got ready, and went to a jewelry store to look at rings. Upon entering, she felt like she had entered a fairy tale. Hundreds of various rings and earrings with stones sparkling invitingly from the display cases. However, after looking at the prices, the girl gasped once again. The amounts were simply outrageous. She felt so sad. Magda looked around the store for a salesman, but instead found a handsome man who seemed to have stepped out of her dreams. He was sophisticated, refined, polished, and it was immediately apparent that he was very well off. "Excuse me, can you please help me?" the trembling girl finally spoke up. "Why not help such a beautiful young lady? I'm listening to you," the man smiled and winked at the girl. "You know, I have a wedding in a week. I would like to pick out rings, but the problem is that our budget is somewhat limited." Magda stumbled and blushed sadly. "I understand you. I'll show you the appropriate options at a discount. And would you like to have a coffee and discuss everything? We'll have a sale soon," the man suggested and smiled meaningfully. Millions of butterflies fluttered in Magda's stomach. The man's name was Mario, and he and his mother had a network of jewelry stores throughout the city. Fortunately for Magda, he accidentally ended up behind the counter in this store. The saleswoman got sick, and he had to replace her. Mario gave Magda his business card, told her to call him anytime, and gifted her with a long, intriguing look. Magda thought about Mario all night. Thoughts of possible intimacy with him burned inside her. Everything inside her was torn apart and turned upside down. She never even felt a tenth of these emotions with Jason, and in the morning, the girl decided everything for herself. Such a chance comes once in a lifetime. Whatever happens, I'll call, she thought, and dialed the coveted number. "Hello, Mario, it's Magda. My fiancé is still away. Would you kindly take me to a country house, to my friends outside the city?" she asked. In reality, the girl went all in. Of course, there was no country house or friends. Instead, there was a passionate love affair right in the car at the forest glade. Mario turned out to be a stunning lover, and Magda never experienced such intense feelings at the peak of bliss before. A week passed like a moment. Magda and Mario were consumed by passionate love passions. The girl, of course, tormented her conscience. She feverishly thought about how to get out of the situation and what to do with Jason. And the wedding. How to tell him everything. But she knew for sure there would be no wedding. On the day of Jason's arrival, Magda had already taken all of her belongings from his apartment and couldn't think of anything better than leaving him a note. "Jason, there will be no wedding. I met and fell in love with another man. Forgive me and try to understand." Upon coming home and learning the news, Jason was overcome with grief. He refused to believe in such treacherous betrayal. He tried to call Magda, pounded the doorsteps of her house, but she refused to get in touch and did not pick up the phone. One day, Jason was waiting for her outside of her workplace in the hopes of finally understanding why she had humiliated him. Suddenly, he saw Magda come out of the cafe and was about to approach her, but a luxurious car pulled up. Magda got in, passionately kissed her companion, and they drove off, laughing merrily. Jason silently got into his car and went home. A few days later, he embarked on a distant journey to the other end of the country. He hoped that the long road trip would help him forget and save him from the sadness and pain of a betrayed love. Meanwhile, Magda was living life to the fullest. She frequented expensive restaurants, yacht clubs, wore luxurious dresses, and indulged in a sea of passion. She felt like a queen. Finally, all my dreams have come true, she thought to herself more than once. Her mother was thrilled for her daughter. "Thank God you came to your senses and left your poor Jason. I'm so happy for you, my dear. Mario will marry you, and you'll live your life like a queen," she exclaimed. But Mario's parents did not approve of the relationship and constantly reprimanded him. "Mario, you're not 16 years old. You had your fun with that girl, and that's enough. Don't you even think about marrying that gold digger. You won't get a penny." "I'll make sure of it," his father scolded him. Mario just waved it off. "Oh, Dad, stop it. I'm not crazy enough to ruin my life because of some sentimental girl. I'll have some more fun." "Calm down," he laughed. However, without asking anyone, fate took an unexpected sharp turn. One night, Magda and Mario were driving back from the club, kissing as usual, and got into a terrible accident. Magda woke up in the traumatology ward with her legs in traction, her arm in a cast, and her head throbbing with pain. The diagnosis? A broken hip. Mario suffered much less. only with a bruised rib and a small wound. He was stitched up and sent home to recover. But before Magda, difficult times had come. She needed a complicated operation and had spent a month in the hospital. She was still hoping that the door would open and her beloved Mario would come in, hugging her like a little girl and feel sorry for her. And most importantly, pay for her treatment. But instead, Mario's mother burst into the ward like a fury. "You've gone too far. You almost killed my son. What if my son would have died? It's all because of you," the enraged woman scolded Magda. "What are you speaking about? I love him. I'm going to marry him," Magda defended herself. "Are you out of your mind? Who's going to marry you? Just stop fooling around. Who are you and who is he? Do you even understand?" Mario's mother did not calm down. Magda cried out of offense and despair. Mario never picked up the phone, nor did he ever visit her. After a month, Jason returned from his trip and discovered what happened to Magda. Without hesitation, he rushed to the hospital. Upon entering the ward, he didn't accuse her of anything. "Magda, how did it happen that you got in here? Do you need help?" Magda felt terribly ashamed and lowered her eyes. "Jason, I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me? Please help me." Jason began visiting her at the hospital and paid for her treatment. He visited her at home every day, brought her delicious hot food, and brewed rosehip tea in a thermos with love, hoping Magda would recover more quickly. His friends teased him. "Are you crazy, Jason? She humiliated you, and you're bringing her pies? You'll regret it." Jason understood it intellectually, of course, but he couldn't shake the love he felt for Magda from his heart. When they were together, watching a movie or taking a walk in the autumn park, his heart sang with happiness. Thanks to Jason's care and attention, Magda recovered in 3 months. She felt good, calm, and safe with him. But every time she thought of the scoundrel Mario, a warm sensation spread in her lower abdomen, and her heart beat wildly. Jason had spent all of his savings on Magda's treatment, and with his money running out, he planned his next trip by truck. He couldn't shake off the feeling of inexplicable fear and anxiety, repeatedly asking Magda if she would betray him again or wait for him. And every time, Magda hugged him and whispered in his ear, "Don't doubt me. I won't betray you anymore. You've done so much for me." Finally, Jason left feeling relatively calm and believing in Magda. Although he was afraid she would leave him again, he still hoped she had changed and would spend her life with him. A few days after Jason's departure, Mario found Magda. He learned that she had recovered and immediately went to her house. Without giving her time to think, he slipped inside and pressed her against the wall with his whole body, whispering hotly in her ear, "I missed you so much, my sweet. And you? I hope you're not angry. I couldn't be with you because of my father's business, but now I'm here, and I won't leave you anymore." Magda went with him again, overwhelmed by the insane passion and losing her head completely. They went to an expensive hotel, where there was plenty of champagne, flowers, and intense emotions. They met again and again, but Mario didn't offer anything, didn't apologize, and Magda understood that he was using her. But as soon as he touched her, she no longer belonged to herself. Jason was returning home when his friend called him. Jason's heart unpleasantly squeezed in a bad premonition. "I don't want to upset you, my friend, but your Magda is cheating on you. She has no conscience. Yesterday, I saw her with her ex. They went to a hotel, laughing and happy. He was holding her waist and she was kissing him. I told you, Jason, to give up on this idea. She's not the one for you. Do you understand? She's a kept woman and a party girl. If you want to be mad at me, go ahead, but you're a complete fool, Jason. That's my opinion." Jason hung up the phone silently, turned off the engine, got out of his car, and fell onto the grass in the middle of the field. He cried, lying on the ground for a very long time. The only thought pulsating in his head was, why? After calming down, he called Magda. She was chirping on the phone, saying how much she missed him and waited for him. And when she asked him when he would be back, Jason was astonished by her treachery and audacity. He abruptly cut her off and said, You're so ungrateful, you wretch. I know everything, and I hate you." Jason hung up in anger. As for Magda, she was a little upset that she got caught cheating, of course. She understood that Mario could leave her again, but Jason, the simpleton, would do anything she wanted. However, she didn't know how to make long-term plans. She was living at the moment, and today was good with Mario. What will happen tomorrow will happen tomorrow. What if Mario marries me? Who knows what the future holds? I am beautiful, and there are all the chances to become Mario's wife. I just have to please his parents, and that it is only a matter of time, thought Magda to herself. Meanwhile, after that bad conversation, Jason continued driving home from his trip. He calmed down a bit and tried to keep himself together. After all, the road is no joke, and nervousness could lead to accidents. When he was about 70 kilometers away from home, Jason noticed a woman on the side of the road. She was hitchhiking. The cars were flying by on the highway without noticing her or stopping. It was getting dark outside. The sky was cloudy and a storm was brewing. Jason felt sorry for the woman and decided to give her a ride, even though he usually never picked up hitchhikers. They started talking. The girl's name was Frances. She was on her way home from work and lived in the suburbs with her elderly father and 7-year-old son. She missed the last bus and her phone died. As luck would have it, Frances was worried that her father would be concerned if she didn't return by evening, and he had a weak heart, so who knows what could happen. Jason looked at the woman. She wasn't a beauty. She was simple and modest, a so-called gray mouse. But her open gaze and big sensual lips made her adorable. Sorry for the question, but that about the father of your child, Jason asked. Father? No, traitor. All men are the same. He professed his love, promised to marry me, and then he found himself a richer girl. When he found out I was pregnant, he came back and begged for forgiveness, saying he'd love me and our son, but instead, he cheated left and right. I don't trust anyone anymore. Frances burst out on emotions, and tears welled up in her eyes. A familiar story. I just found out about another betrayal recently, and this is after everything I've done for my girlfriend. Well, then let's be friends. We have something to talk about. We've both suffered, Frances said with a sad smile. Jason began to visit Frances frequently. He and her father immediately found common ground. Frances' 7-year-old son was thrilled with Jason and his huge car, always asking to ride with him. Jason helped the family with their household chores, repairing the porch and fixing the roof. Frances turned out to be an excellent homemaker, cooking delicious dishes and baking fragrant buns. Jason felt welcome here. They awaited his arrival, sent him off, and greeted him with love. Gradually, he became close with Frances, and they started to live as one big friendly family. A year later, they had a beautiful daughter named Holly. Jason decided to sell his apartment and open an auto repair shop to be close to his family. On his way to the notary to finalize the documents, he looked into the cafe where he once met Magda. With a nostalgic ache, he ordered coffee and sat down at a table. A cleaning lady was working between the tables. She was unkempt, with obvious signs of alcohol abuse on her face. Something about her seemed familiar to Jason, and he desperately tried to remember. Looking closer, he gasped. It's Magda! Oh my god, what happened to her? Jason was amazed, remembering how attractive she used to be. Unable to resist, the man called out to her, Magda, is that you? The woman looked dissatisfied, turned around, and her face distorted with anger and shame. It's me, who else? She grumbled angrily and ran out of the cafe. After asking the waiter, Jason learned of her sad fate. Mario forced her to have an abortion, but it had bad consequences, and now she was permanently childless. Then he left her because his parents found him a suitable match from high society. Magda started to drink down her sorrow, went downhill, and ended up as a cleaning lady, but they hired her more out of pity. Jason was unpleasantly stunned because despite Magda's betrayal, he had never wished her such a fate. And now, he even felt a little sorry for her. But who's to blame for her fate? She chose it herself. She gave up a loving and faithful man for base animal instincts and money. A wave of love and gratitude towards Frances suddenly overwhelmed him. He approached her, hugged her gently, and said, "Thank you for everything, my dear. You are my happiness." Only now did he realize that false declarations of love and Shakespearean passions were not so important in relationships. And you should not love a woman for her beauty. You should appreciate her loyalty, devotion, and decency.